Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're looking at a story that honestly feels like a real-life cinematic mystery. In our deeply interconnected world, where satellite maps can literally show us the roofs of our own houses, there still remains a place shrouded in absolute secrecy. Today, we're exploring the fascinating realities behind North Sentinel Island. Get ready, because the truth about this place is going to completely change how you view isolation, protection, and human history.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Why is this one small, seemingly serene island in the vast Indian Ocean completely closed off to the outside world? And more importantly, why is it that just approaching its shores can actually be life-threatening? We hear the phrase forbidden place thrown around a lot on the internet, right? But North Sentinel Island isn't some secret military base or a billionaire's private retreat. It's something much more profound. It's a living, breathing testament to a completely different way of human existence, and it is actively guarded against modern intrusion.
Part 1. The Forbidden Island. To truly understand this, we need to trace it from the beginning and look at the physical and legal reality of the island itself. North Sentinel Island is located in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, nestled way deep down in the Indian Ocean. This densely forested island is home to the Sentinelese tribe. But here's what makes this completely unique. It is legally closed to all visitors. We aren't just talking about a no trespassing sign on a beach. We are talking about a strict government-enforced maritime exclusion zone. You absolutely cannot go there. Full stop. So to grasp exactly why those laws exist, we have to understand a crucial anthropological baseline. The Sentinelese are one of the world's last known uncontacted indigenous peoples. Take a second to really process that definition. These are communities that have lived in extreme isolation. They've maintained basically no sustained contact with neighboring communities, let alone the globalized world that we live in today. In an era of smartphones and constant global flights, the sheer rarity of their situation is absolutely staggering. They are completely independent of modern civilization.
Part 2. Millennia of absolute isolation.
When scientists look at the Sentinelese, they aren't looking at a group that just decided to go off the grid a few decades ago. Based on scientific estimates, they've likely remained separated from the rest of humanity for thousands of years. And this brings us to a crucial point that completely flips the narrative you might have heard. When people call this the most dangerous island, the danger isn't just what awaits outsiders. The outside world is actually vastly more dangerous to the Sentinelese. Because they've been isolated for millennia, they just haven't developed immunities to common pathogens that you and I fight off without even thinking about it. A simple flu or a common cold transmitted by an outsider could literally decimate their entire population. Plus, any forced contact risks catastrophic cultural disruption, potentially erasing thousands of years of heritage basically overnight.
Part 3. A history of unwanted contact. Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds, because their immense vulnerability explains exactly why they don't want us there. Looking at the historical record, it is incredibly easy to understand why they fiercely reject outside interference. Every single time the modern world has knocked on their door, it's brought nothing but threat and disruption to their peaceful isolation. Back in the 19th century, British colonial expeditions severely disrupted the wider region, establishing a really dark history of colonial interference. Moving into the late 20th century, you had intermittent encounters by researchers, some attempting friendly contact, sure, but ultimately recognizing the extreme risks involved. Today, the Indian government has formally recognized these risks by enacting a strict, eyes-on, hands-off policy. They observe from a safe distance to ensure the island's safety, but strictly prohibit anyone from actually stepping foot on the shore.
Part 4. The 2018 Missionary Incident.
Despite these incredibly strict, well-known protections, the island's isolation was breached just a few years ago in a tragic event that brought intense global attention right back to North Sentinel Island. In November of 2018, an American missionary named John Allen Chow illegally approached the island. His explicit goal was to make contact with the tribe, actively bypassing the Indian government's maritime blockades to do so. Now, this illegal encounter resulted in Chow's highly publicized death at the hands of the tribe. It was a tragic loss of life, and the incident immediately forced the international community to reaffirm just how absolutely necessary India's non-contact laws are. It proved definitively that the protective barrier really must be respected.
Part 5. Separating Myth from Fact.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we look at the aftermath of events like the 2018 incident. They often act as a huge magnet for internet sensationalism, so it's super important to draw a clear line between rumor and reality here. Sensationalist corners of the internet often use these really harmful, fabricated tropes, portraying the Sentinelese as evil or savage because of their hostility toward outsiders. Actually, scratch that. When you look at the verified anthropological facts, they are simply and rightfully defending their home. When you consider the literal deadly threat that outside diseases pose to their very existence, their defensive posture isn't just understandable, it's a highly rational survival mechanism. They are quite simply protecting their families.
Part 6. The right to remain untouched.
Recognizing their right to survival leads us to a profound legal and moral consensus. As the anthropological consensus clearly states, the Sentinelese have repeatedly and explicitly made it clear they want to be left alone. Forced contact would be a death sentence for the tribe. It is a strict, evidence-based necessity that the Indian government maintains its protective barrier. Respecting their isolation isn't just about following maritime law. It is literally a matter of life and death to prevent the transmission of fatal diseases and the destruction of a wholly unique human culture.
And this perfectly illustrates their incredible uniqueness. As historical observers have noted, they are arguably the only people on our planet who have successfully defended their borders and their isolation for centuries. I mean, in an era where global exploration has reached quite literally every corner of the map, their ability to remain autonomous, self-sufficient, and entirely separate from the modern world is just a breathtaking testament to human resilience.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative question to chew on. Should some places on Earth remain completely untouched by the modern world? North Sentinel Island teaches us a really powerful lesson about boundaries, respect, and the incredible diversity of the human experience. Not every mystery needs to be uncovered, and not every island needs to be visited. Sometimes the most respectful and profoundly human thing we can do is simply leave them be. Thank you so much for learning with me today, and keep asking great questions.